We are headed towards campsite 18 on Cranberry Lake in St. Lawrence County, New York. There's a boulder at the shore, and there's a very large boulder just under the water here at that drop-off by the campsite marker. Let me see if there's a better spot. If you're in a small boat, canoe or kayak, continue past the campsite into the little bay that's beside it. There are a couple spots that look as if people land on them. This one has a muddy bottom. I don't see any rocks. At the moment there is a log in there that I can slide on. There we are. Welcome to campsite 18 on Cranberry Lake in St. Lawrence County, New York. You have to walk up a moderate slope. It's fairly short to get to the campsite from the landing area to the south of the campsite. There's a fire ring. Somebody's dug it out recently. If you were behind the fire ring or beside the fire ring, the lake is essentially to your east. Sunrise would come from that direction for most of the summer through the trees, so it's a very well shaded site because it's completely surrounded by trees. Prevailing winds will come from the southwest, which is that direction, which is well screened by trees. There's just a small opening in the canopy for seeing the night sky. You can see this is the spot that is designated for camping. This is where you should set up your tent or your hammock. There are two spots where you could put a tent, one directly behind the fire ring and one a little bit to the east of that. The one to the east has more of a slope and there are some roots and humps in it. There aren't any picnic tables or benches. It's been raining hard for the past couple days and I don't see any muddy spots, so at least it's well drained. So you can hang a hammock at this site. There are a few well-spaced trees. Again, always being careful to look up and make sure there aren't any widowmakers. They can happen at any time. Just because I found a spot or two where you could put a hammock that appears to be safe doesn't mean that there won't be a hazard when you show up or that I didn't see one. Isn't much of a view from the campsite. You can see a little bit of the water that the campsite sits on. So this will be a fairly buggy site. Being surrounded by mosquitoes right now, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon, and there is a breeze out on the lake. People climbed in and out of the water by the tree the campsite marker's on. You can see under the water there's a boulder right there at the edge of the water. And then a little farther out, that's a very large boulder or piece of bedrock. It sticks out in the water. That would make this not a great spot to pull into with a boat. There is a sandy bottom there if you wanted to walk out for swimming. The landing for the trailhead, for the trail that leads to Slide Rock and other popular destinations, is directly across this little bay from campsite 18, and that can be quite busy on a nice summer day. You can have a lot of boats pulled up there with people heading up to enjoy that. The trail to the privy goes up a slope. There are a fair number of roots in it, so you have to pick your feet up. There's some undergrowth that grows into it, so if it's rained or it's a dewy morning, you'll get brushed by wet leaves. This is interesting. The top of the hill on the trail leading to the privy, there's a large area that looks like people use. The trail to the privy continues on through that clearing, up over a little hill that gives you just a modicum of privacy, not to mention all the undergrowth. And we have a box privy, no toilet seat. There are a few hemlock trees in the woods around the campsite with horizontal branches that you could use for a bear hang. Not a lot though. So there is a rill to the southwest of campsite 18. Out from the back of campsite 18 toward that rill there's a barely discernible herd path that leads off up a ridge, down a ridge, towards the Cranberry Lake 50, and it does make a connection. So just south of campsite 18 there is a little stream. You'll be able to hear that in the campsite. It comes off a fairly steep slope and runs over some rocks and then out into the lake. There is a herd path leading to campsite 18 from the Cranberry Lake 50 trail network. You see a sign that says spring. If you follow the trail to the left, that will take you down the left side of the flow to campsite 18. It's a herd path. You can follow it, although it's not much used. There are no trail markers on it that I saw. Here's the spring mentioned in the sign. I don't recommend drinking it. You'll be able to hear the water from the spring and the creek over in campsite 18.